The story comes to us from denverpost.com. Well, Denver paid out $500,000, or I should say the taxpayers did, at the approval of the city. Now Colorado Springs is like, we want our turn. We want to pay. So any of you that pay taxes in Colorado, the state of Colorado, Denver and Colorado Springs are taking your money. Well, the police departments are, because a federal lawsuit against 2 Colorado Springs police officers and the city, filed by a protester who was allegedly slammed headfirst into the pavement, has been settled for $175,000.
The city of Colorado Springs is going to pay $175,000 to Celia Palmer as a part of this settlement. Also, as part of this settlement, the police department must update its policy with regards to how they disperse a crowd. Attorney Andrew McNulty said he thinks the department should have fired Reed.
If Colorado Springs allows an officer like Officer Reed to keep policing after he's brutalized a protester and cost the city $175,000, after he's posted on Facebook homicidal thoughts about protesters, what does that say about the rest of the department?
Police Chief Niski announced at the time that Reed had been reassigned and suspended for a week without pay. But McNulty told us there's been no internal affairs investigation into the use of force by Reed against his client.
Been no discipline imposed. To this day, no one's been held accountable for what happened during those protests.
Now, the Colorado Springs City Council approved this lawsuit, and Celia Palmer, who according to the excessive force lawsuit was ambushed by Sergeant Keith Reed on June 2nd of 2020, after she and a friend left a George Floyd demonstration when police ordered them to disperse. Now, Reed was disciplined by the department in August of 2020 for commenting on "Kill Them All" and put on Facebook Live "Kill Them All" on the live stream event of a Black Lives Matter protest in Colorado Springs right after the George Floyd incident.
The attorney representing Celia Palmer said she was one of many protesters arrested and injured by police on the night of June 2nd, 2020.
Tackled to the ground, ambushed, suffered a concussion.
The officer who arrested Palmer, Sergeant Keith Reed, was publicly disciplined later that summer when it was revealed he'd commented "Kill 'em all" on a social media post sharing video of another protest on I-25. As part of the settlement, CSPD must update its policies, requiring officers to give clear warnings before using force to disperse a crowd.
Now, I want you to hear this next part. You got to listen to this. The settlement includes, as of March 1st, in about a month, the following language in Colorado Springs Police Department policy. Listen to this. Do you really think these cops are going to abide by this? Dispersal warnings are mandatory prior to utilizing less lethal force tools or force to disperse a crowd. Prior to using force, an officer shall identify himself or herself as a peace officer. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, "You must disperse. We are the police. Move in." You know. Well, they didn't disperse. We gave the warning. We said we were cops. You really you think that those give a dispersal warning mandatorily? It's mandated to give a dispersal warning prior to using force, and then you have to identify yourself as a peace officer before you do use that force. Nothing's changed. Now they're just it's still gonna be the same, only they're gonna say, "Well, I told them to disperse and I said I was a cop. They just looked at me." An officer is not required to give such a warning when doing so would unduly place the officers at risk of injury and or would create a risk of death or injury to other persons, according to Colorado Springs PD. And that's in their policy. When a warning cannot be given in a situation where force is used, the officer will document the reasons why in the case report. They already do that. They already lie in their police reports. "Well, I feared for my life." The city, in a statement, said the settlement does not implicate Reed or Officer Wesley Woodworth of any wrongdoing. The statement reads, "The city of Colorado Springs chose to settle this case on the interests of its taxpayers." Yeah, on the backs of your taxpayers, you mean. They go on. The cost of litigation is a consideration in making settlement decisions. In regard to this matter, no court found any wrongdoing of the officers involved. So the officers, they're not wrong. No, the officers didn't do nothing wrong. We just didn't want the taxpayers to pay half a million like Denver did. So the taxpayers pay 175 grand. You know what? I'm glad I live in California. California is expensive enough. Colorado, y'all paying some lawsuits out.